Microphone. What's up, everybody? I'm Jason Visenberg.
And I'm Michael Visenberg.
Welcome to Viseland. We got a lot going on, a lot of big news coming in the basketball world as of today. So, Mikey, let us start with that McDonald's All-American rosters were released today.
Yes, sir. And they're not having the game. Oh,
Yeah, not having the game.
Yeah, not having the game. Nonetheless, quite an honor. And yes, like I think, for the second year in a row, not having this game it has to be pretty devastating for people that had looked forward to this. And it is a huge accomplishment. The history of this game, the fact that you get to spend a few days with some of the top players in your high school class. It's kind of like that senior accomplishment as well. And the vast history of the game, playing a game on nationally televised. So it's a bummer, but yeah, nonetheless, they did release a roster. Last year, they gave them a lot of very cool swag. So
as they should. I remember in college, my neighbor Malik Hairston was an McDonald's All-American, and when he'd walk around the dorms and the cafeteria there with his McDonald's All-American shorts, people were pretty peanut butter and jealousy there. So it's pretty cool because, again,
as they should have been.
There's only so many people that attain that status. It's
for sure.
Accomplishment.
Every year they have to put like a big on the roster who maybe shouldn't be there, and they did that once again this year. But yeah, nonetheless, these are a bunch of top high school players, and like obviously without having a summer, I think the summer is usually the biggest time to kind of prove your worth as a McDonald's All-American candidate. You had some players even leave early for college who might have had a chance to get a nomination. But yeah, let's just go over the list, and I'm just going to do it just alphabetically. I know they did announce an East and West roster, but they're not playing the game. So we'll just go over this list of the players that received nominations today. And Patrick Baldwin Jr., he's one of the top players in the high school class of 2021. He goes to Hamilton High School in Wisconsin. He is currently undecided, though I have heard that there seems to be a distinct possibility that he ends up playing for his father at Wisconsin-Milwaukee. That seems to be the latest news. Paulo Banchero out of O'Dea in Seattle is going to Duke. Nathan Biddle from Prolific Prep in California, originally from Crater High School in Oregon, is going to University of Oregon. You have Kendall Brown at Sunrise Christian Academy. I believe they're the second-ranked team in the nation right now, and he's going to Baylor. Kobe Buffkin out of Grand Rapids Christian High School is going to Michigan. Kenny Chandler, also Sunrise Christian Academy, is going to Tennessee. Max Christie, Rolling Meadows High School in Illinois, is going to Michigan State. Damian Collins out of Atlanta High School in Texas is going to Kentucky. J.D. Davison out of Calhoun High School in Alabama is going to Alabama. Moussa Diabate, originally from France, is at IMG Academy, has been there for the past couple of years, going to Michigan. Michael Foster from Hillcrest Prep is still undecided, but it seems like he's a distinct pro possibility. Jackson Grant out of Olympia High School is going to University of Washington. Adrian Griffin Jr., the son of NBA assistant coach Adrian Griffin and former NBA player, is out of Archbishop Stepinac in New York, is going to Duke. Jaden Hardy, Coronado High School, is still undecided and another pro possibility. Nolan Hickman, going to Wasatch Academy, was originally at Eastside Catholic in Washington, is going to Kentucky. Chet Holmgren out of Minnehaha Academy is still undecided, pro possibility, or Gonzaga seem to be the two choices. Caleb Houston, originally from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, is at Montverde Academy, going to Michigan. Harrison Ingram, St. Mark's School in Texas, is going to Stanford. Trevor Keels out of Paul Six High School in Virginia is still undecided, though it seems like he is a Duke lean. Amino Muhammad out of Greenwood Laboratory School in Missouri is committed to Georgetown. Dacian Ruffin, Callaway High School in Mississippi, that's the same high school that Malik Newman went to, is committed to Ole Miss. Hunter Salas out of Miller North High School is still undecided, though I think Kentucky, North Carolina, seems like blue blood is likely to land him. Jabari Smith at Sandy Creek High School in Georgia is going to Auburn. He's the son of former NBA player and LSU player Jabari Smith. And Peyton Watson, small forward out of Long Beach Polytechnic High School, is headed to UCLA. So that is the list. And there were a few players that I think we want to mention that were possibilities. And I know Pro Insight kind of shouted them out, but they mentioned in alphabetical order, Tamar Bates, Matthew Cleveland, who was, I think, the highest player in the RSCI or 247 composite who was eligible. He's a Florida State commit. Frankie Collins, he's a Michigan commit. Samson Johnson, Jordan Longino, Bryce McGowan's, who's a Nebraska commit. And I think he was actually the highest in the 247 at least, but also very high in the RSCI. Manny Obaseki, who's committed to Texas A&M. Caden Perry, who's committed to Gonzaga. Kawasi Reeves, who is committed to Florida, and Jaylen Worley, who is committed to Florida State, were just a few guys who at least were on the radar for possible nominations for the McDonald's game. Nonetheless, quite an honor, and very cool that they still made a list of players who made the game.
Yeah, it's gives them something to remember for the rest of their lives. And then hey, they as mentioned, that year will be very, very nice. But I know ESPN will probably do a lot of airing of old McDonald's All-American games, and if you ever get a chance to catch those, they are pretty fun because again, you see a lot of the current stars of the NBA at a very very young age. It's pretty
athleticism, and it's always crazy.
Young LeBron in a dunk contest, incredible. But then also how much bigger he's gotten, since coming to the NBA. He was by comparison a super skinny kid, even though he was the most jacked up 18-year-old ever. So always a fun, super fun game to watch. And then again, if you're following the NBA draft, it's these are after this draft in June, these will be the next batch of people that are going to get discussed and talked about over the next basically summer and onward for the year. So always good to kind of follow McDonald's game and see what's going on. Also, NBA today goes ahead. They also released their all-star rosters. They are proceeding with a game. They did not follow our advice.
Nope.
Hey, maybe do the McDonald's All-American thing and just say hey guys, you could have done it. You don't have to all gather together here in Atlanta, but they're going ahead with it.
Yeah, they are indeed.
So they think, so LeBron is captaining on the West. They didn't listen to our hypothesis of Giannis. They went with Kevin Durant. Either one, both on the team that
two highest vote getters, all across the board.
No beef there.
It's going to be Team LeBron versus Team Durant, and they are having a draft. And so they did announce the All-Star reserves today. They had already announced the All-Star starters, but just for the sake of it, we'll just go over the teams. So in the Eastern Conference, the head coach is Doc Rivers, and they have Kevin Durant as the team captain. So he'll be choosing the game against LeBron. I think that's the first time that's happened. So Bradley Beal and Kyrie Irving were the two guards chosen. The two other front court players were Joel Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And then as far as reserves, we have first-time All-Stars Jaylen Brown, Zach Levine, and Julius Randle.
Excuse
me?
Zach Levine we talked about too is one of the the guys that could potentially make an all-star team one day.
Yeah, we had talked about Jaylen Brown too. Yeah. Two of those guys, we didn't have Julius on that list. We did have Julius on our possibilities for the All-Star game when we went over the All-Star predictions that we had. And we got most of them. And joining them will be James Harden, Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum playing in a second All-Star game, and Nikola Vucevic. So they decided to go with Vooch over some other players. We were saying that Vooch was having one of his best years, but still was a bit of a surprise seeing that Orlando's record is the way that it is. And then as far as the Western Conference, they're going to be coached by Quinn Snyder. So I'm assuming that Kevin Durant gets Doc Rivers and LeBron probably gets Quinn Snyder. So we have LeBron James as team captain. The starters at guard were Stephen Curry and Luka Doncic. And then the front court starters were Nikola Jokic and Kawhi Leonard. Then we have first-time All-Star Zion Williamson. We have Anthony Davis, who likely will not play in the game. So probable injury replacement there. Paul George, Rudy Gobert in his second All-Star game, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, and Chris Paul over his teammate Devin Booker.
Yeah, that was definitely a little bit of debate. I think even LeBron came out today on Twitter in support of Devin Booker, saying that he was a little underrated there, getting the snub. But I mean, Chris Paul is also
what I will say
always captain of the ship.
And Chris Paul is obviously LeBron's best friend. So I'm guessing LeBron isn't saying that Devin Booker should have it instead of Chris Paul.
Over Chris Paul. He didn't name names, but no, he just said it was a
he needs to name names. That's a thing I'm saying. If you're saying a guy got snubbed, you need to say who he got snubbed for. That is very important to me. So yeah, I
LeBron uses his status as LeBron for that kind of anonymity.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. But yeah, so personally, like we had our all-star list, Jason, and the players that we named on the list that did not make the team for the West, I think just Devin Booker. And for the East, I will admit that like leaving off Ben Simmons is, there have been a few players who've had a pretty massive improvement since we made the list. And Ben Simmons is one of those players. So absolutely. I think everybody that made the team, like there was nobody who I was like, oh, this is like an egregious pick. But I do feel like if you're looking at like Nikola Vucevic and Bam Adebayo, it's pretty close. And like I would give it to Bam. But yeah, like that would be the one that I might like redo. And then Julius Randle was the other one because Chris Middleton's been playing so fantastic this year and having his best year ever and shooting like 50, 40, 90. And Milwaukee isn't as good as they've been the past couple of years. So that I think is, another thing there that probably led to Chris Middleton not making the game is Milwaukee not being that like number one team in the league as they had been the past couple of years. But yeah, I thought Julius Randle was playing fantastic basketball, and New York is certainly in the thick of things in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Zach Levine has been really, really good this year also, and he was a player that we had left off that team. So yeah, I think the players that we had instead of them, we had Domantas Sabonis, we had Bam Adebayo, and we had who?
Trae Young didn't make it.
And Trae Young. That was the other player. So, somewhat of a surprise, but I would have to say Trae Young would be the person I would least fight for as far as not making the All-Star game. Due to Atlanta, obviously, like extenuating circumstances there because they started off really well and then lost an incredibly important piece in DeAndre Hunter and also in Bogdanovich going down. So yeah, they've had some injury issues, but yeah, after starting in the All-Star game last year, Trae Young does not make it this year. Another possibility, at least like when people were talking about snubs, Philadelphia has been a great team this year, and Tobias Harris has also been really good, had an excellent year for them. As far as the Anthony Davis injury replacement, I would put the odds on Devin Booker. Like that would be my pick. But I think DeMar DeRozan certainly has a chance. San Antonio's been playing well above people's expectations, and DeMar's been quite good once again.
List as well, but
who was?
De'Aaron Fox was also on the like kind of our alternate watch.
Oh yeah, honorable mention. Yeah, I had a few. De'Aaron Fox was one of them. Brandon Ingram was another one who was a possibility. And then I know that the analytics people, and seeing that Utah has been as fantastic as they've been this year, are talking about Mike Conley Jr. possibly getting that last spot. And he has been great once again, and Utah has been so good. And he's obviously like a very valuable piece for them also. So yes, it's a team effort, but and they do already have 2 All-Stars, but if there was a team that deserved 3 All-Stars, like Utah, I think is even like a couple games ahead of the next best team in the NBA right now. Yeah, they're 3 games up on the Clippers in the Western Conference, and the Clippers would be ahead of even Philadelphia. So yeah, Utah has been really like above and beyond this year. So it's kind of crazy because I think that we had, when we did the best players never to make an All-Star team, I think we listed Mike Conley.
Oh, totally. Well, because, again, he was like one of the higher, like when he signed that fat contract in Memphis, like, you're paying this guy a lot of, and he's always been good, but yeah, he's just never made that hump, especially over a lot of the other.
It's not even a hump. I just think it's a conference.
Yeah, it's like a lot of like, you have to beat a lot of Western Conference point guards out. It's like Mike Conley versus Chris Paul.
I was assuming that Mike Conley was just never going to make the game. And this might be his best chance he's ever had. So, yeah, like I know that he's always been in the thick of things, but when Mike Conley wouldn't make it, people would usually say, well, these guys had obvious cases over him.
Again, it's not, yeah, it's just more of like, there's so much.
It's not even that Devin Booker has like, I would say, like, I would go with Devin Booker, but it's hard to say he has an obvious case over Mike Conley because of just how dominant Utah has been as a team this year.
And how do they do it now? Does the coach still pick the replacements? Like, wasn't that?
I think the commissioner does.
The commissioner, okay.
Well, I think commissioners pick injury replacements.
Okay, so yeah. Definitely.
It'll be up to the commissioner. I'm sure he has people in his ear and things like that, but yeah.
Listen to our show every once in a while.
Like last year, they chose Devin Booker. Devin Booker was an injury replacement. Yeah. And he originally wasn't supposed to make the All-Star team, was chosen as an injury replacement, much deserved. And you figured like Phoenix is finally starting to win games. They're 4th place in the West. And Chris Paul, obviously fantastic and a huge reason for that as well. But yeah, it seems like Devin Booker's team, man. So yeah, I was a little surprised by that. And obviously we leaned Devin Booker over Chris Paul, but yeah, it's really hard to say you're too surprised to see Chris Paul in an All-Star game as one of the better players in NBA history. But yeah, I thought they were interesting lists, and they kind of didn't necessarily go by the rules. I guess just with Vooch, like Vooch has made an All-Star game before, but just still like with the way Orlando's played this year, and I know they obviously have extenuating circumstances as well, and yeah, like right now they are a couple games behind. They're a game and a half behind Miami, and they are a couple games out of 7th and 8th place in the East. My ultimate feeling is the reason that Vooch was chosen, beyond obviously having a good year, is them being really rigid about the positional guidelines. That's what I feel it is, because he's a center and Bam is like a power forward-ish center and things like that. So I'm guessing they went that way. And, maybe like Bam was a couple different positions, which is, I think, the reason that I believe Chris Middleton was left off an All-NBA team last year, is that he had gotten votes at forward and guard, but they weren't enough to make up for whatever Russell Westbrook had gotten. Like, it was very weird. But yeah, I think I just want to see the positional breakdown, because like he this year in his play-by-play data, Bam is literally 50-50 as a power forward and a center. And then last year you saw like Anthony Davis made the All-NBA team as a center, because they still go by that pretty rigidly as well. And yeah, so I'm guessing the rigidity is the reason that Bam was ultimately left off the team. And yeah, otherwise, like, honestly, like it had to be pretty close between a Julius Randle and a Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah.
And like Indiana is technically in fourth place right now, and they're a pretty group effort also. Like I feel like Randall probably has like a larger usage than a guy like Domas, and they're a game and a half over New York right now. But yeah, it had to be pretty close, and yeah, I was just a little surprised that some of these guys made it. Like, not very surprised by Zach Levine, not surprised by Ben Simmons, a little surprised by Julius, and a little surprised by Vooch.
Yeah, I'd say like, yeah, like Julius and Levine were like the most kind of just surprising, I guess, first time All-Stars. But again,
no, I think Zach Levine like has just been lights out this year. Like I think he's proven a lot of the people like who kind of judged his efficiency and everything, like he's been efficient. He's been just a absolute bucket getter this year. He's having a fantastic season. And Chicago is in the thick of things right now in the Eastern like playoff kind of run there for 7 to 10. So yeah, I when Chicago started winning games, that I think that put Zach Levine.
It definitely changed, prospects. And you look at a team like, just type of, the Raptors, who didn't have as hot a start, don't get their guys in. So
that,
it's kind of how
Van Vliet and Siakam, they seem to be on the outside looking in.
No, for sure. Oh, for sure. And I mean, that's indicative. But, we were talking about, those all NBA teams and the NBA's rigidity, about some of these things. Well, that leads us into what we're going to be talking about today. And that's kind of just going through, mid-season and just kind of giving those predictions on what those award races, all NBA teams we feel will look like. Obviously, still time to go. We did a preseason as well. And honestly, even just comparing the two, there's obviously a lot of similarities, but there's, a few differences that have, popped out. So without further ado, let's, hop right in. We're at this point of the season. What is your take on this MVP race? Like, who are you feeling at this current moment? Because there are a few guys that are standing out right now. And just looking at the betting odds, Vegas does currently still have LeBron as the favorite.
Yeah, that could be, man. But I'm going by I think largely what I've seen so far, and I just feel like that's likely to continue. Like as crazy as it is, like I'm not sure LeBron is like focused completely on winning the MVP this year.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that he doesn't want to, and I'm not saying like, he won't try to, but I think he cares about something more than winning the MVP, and that's winning another championship. And, everything's kind of been put in his favor so far to win that. And like he started off the season as the Lakers' leading scorer and, having this heavy offensive load once again. And then they kind of hopped out to the best record. Anthony Davis getting hurt, I think probably like even like hurts the chances a little bit. But yeah, so if I had to vote 1 through 5 on MVP right now, and this is also like predicting what's going to happen at the end of the season, I would say my favorite for MVP at this point is Nikola Jokic. And I just think that he's had an absolutely ridiculous year. I think he's went up that next step. I know Denver is still kind of like in the lower, I guess, part of the Western playoff pool at this point. But I think they're going to get better.
I think they're still in a good prime place. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're not far outside of like 5th place. Yeah, the top 4 seems to have kind of established himself a bit, but yeah, with right now it's Utah, the 2 LA teams, and Phoenix. But yeah, I feel like Denver should be sneaking up those rankings, and Nikola Jokic right now is having just an absolutely monster year. He had 41 points tonight, and like it was like a casual 41 against the Portland Trail Blazers. He is shooting 40% from three. He's 87% from the line and 56% from the field, 26.6 points per game, 11.1 rebounds, and 8.5 assists, 1.7 steals per game as well. Like just amazing instincts on both ends of the floor.
The stat sheet.
Yeah, he's leading the NBA in value over replacement player, in offensive box plus minus and box plus minus. He's shooting a ridiculous 65.2% true shooting percentage. And yeah, he's having just like the offensive load that he carries this season is incredible. He's like to me, he's been the favorite for MVP this year. Followed very closely by another center in Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid is another person who's just taken like an insane load as far as his individual offense, shooting close to 40% from three as well. And then he, of course, gets to the line almost 12 times per game and shooting 85% there, averaging 30.3 points per game, 11.3 rebounds, 3.1 assists, 1.3 steals, and 1.4 blocks. And then when you get to the analytics as well, he's doing very well as far as box plus minus, value over replacement player, leading the NBA in player efficiency rating, and also shooting an insane 65.7% true shooting percentage. So yeah, those two guys to me have been the top two MVP candidates so far this year. And it's hard to say otherwise, unless you go by narrative and everything there. And I know LeBron hasn't had like the easiest year with all of the injuries and things happening to the Lakers as well. But yeah, I think like I honestly feel like at this point he would be my third place in the MVP voting, and he's playing from behind a little bit at this point. And then my next two MVP votes would go to fourth place. I have Kawhi Leonard, and fifth place I have Giannis Antetokounmpo. And so I leave out guards, but I still feel there are a few who are definitely in the discussion. But yeah, that would be my top five right now. Did you have anything else to add, or any other different players that you had in your top five?
I think it would be hard for this guy to make it at the top, but obviously I think Dame is having just a great season. But obviously I think it's hard to, put him over, especially when you talk about the actual winning of it. Like I think Jokic and especially like Embiid has been pretty dominant. It's got to be those two or LeBron. I really don't see anybody else at this point that can really crack that.
Yeah, like I just feel Kawhi and Giannis are both playing really well, and or at least in the conversation. Like, I don't know. I guess beyond even like Jokic and Embiid, I think have just been so dominant this year that they have to be at the top of the conversation. And as much as you can just, the thing I never really have much of a problem with is just giving it to the best player and just knowing that LeBron is probably going to turn into playoff for LeBron once again and be fantastic. But, who knows? And he's also having a great individual season. But yeah, I feel like that there are a couple guards who could certainly be at least in the discussion as well, with Damian Lillard and Stephen Curry. And they were players I both thought about it as my fifth place, but ultimately, yeah, I think Jokic and Embiid have just kind of dominated the conversation, and we'll see what LeBron does. Like if LeBron really does try and fight for it, but right now, if you're just talking about regular season, LeBron right now averaging 25.8, 8.2 rebounds, 8.1 assists, 1 steal per game. Shooting pretty well from three, 35.5%, 70.4% for LeBron, which is, I guess, close to 85% by his standards. Just kidding. 50% from the field right now, And then when it comes to like the other analytics, he's definitely behind both players. I'm guessing maybe in certain analytics, he's a little bit ahead. He's shooting a really good true shooting percentage as well, 59%. But yeah, I just feel like he's even like a tad behind his pace last year, just in terms of his individual play. And obviously they added a few players this year who are going to kind of lessen the burden on LeBron. But yeah, I think that it's looking like it's going to be tough for him to win MVP unless people are just going by the narrative and playing by the fact that LeBron is obviously closer to the end of his career. And it's just incredible that he's still able to do what he does and is in the discussion as being the best player in the league, even at this age, after doing it for as long as he has.
Yeah, I think 18th year, and he's one of the, it's LeBron, Kareem, Carmelo, the guys over 35,000 career points.
Just cracked 35,000. But the other thing with LeBron is the 9,000 rebounds and 9,000 assists. And like the fact that he's probably like, I seriously think he's trying to get to like 40, 10, and 10. And that it's just like unprecedented.
You look at, like how many years they expect him to still have. It's like, that's all possible. That's definitely within
it's possible.
Reaches, hey, if the NBA goes back to 82 games next
it's
season.
Not a certainty, but it's possible.
Possible. No, like it's again to be at this scoring levels pretty crazy. But moving on from MVP, let's dive into the rookie of the year. And we've covered this draft class. Obviously, we due to the delay in the draft, we had a lot of time to talk about this draft class. But what's your your feeling right now on that rookie of the year race?
Yeah, I think there's a clear front runner right now, as well as like there's a clear top two to me, and that has been LaMelo Ball and Tyrese Halliburton. And right now, I would have LaMelo as the rookie of the year. LaMelo finally has been inserted into Charlotte's starting lineup, and it looks like he's there to stay. I want to give props to like Terry Rozier, who is just much more efficient this year and has certainly improved quite a bit. And Charlotte's been kind of like a surprising team. Like obviously Gordon Hayward was playing near an all-star level, and I know he was. I feel like he kind of was out of the all-star conversation near the end, but certainly having a very good year. But yeah, LaMelo Ball has been fantastic, and he's been like, the player that people were talking about is at least the draft Twitter favorite and the Viseland favorite as best player in the draft, and currently averaging 14.6 points per game, 6.1 rebounds, 6.1 assists. The shooting 34.6% from three, which was a slight surprise based on what he shot in Australia. And yeah, he's been like 80% from the free throw line as well, 45% field goal percentage, true shooting, not amazing, like 53.5, but still at least
rookie, yeah.
For a rookie, that like not bad. And yeah, he the other thing is like the assist to turnover ratio, and like over 2-to-1 right now, 1.6 steals per game. He's just been so exciting and has made them a team to really watch. And yeah, I think Tyrese Halliburton has played a fantastic role for Sacramento and has certainly helped them.
Yeah, he's kind of been the surprise guy of the drafts thus far, really starting off strong.
I don't think it was that much of a surprise. I think it was just a surprise how much better he has been than like the next player in this rookie class.
More of that.
And I saw him in college and I was very impressed. And he has a great feel for the game, a fantastic passer in his own right, rarely makes mistakes. Like his assist to turnover ratio, I'm guessing, is still absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So right now, 5.3 assists to 1.5 turnovers per game. Not playing as heavy of an on-ball role as LaMelo, and I think people kind of classified him as a point guard when he was that really good linking player who was able to play next to a point guard, which was why it was such a good pick for Sacramento, who already had De'Aaron Fox and for the people that were kind of worried about him. Like, he has the size to move over and play shooting guard. And I think he at least, while he may have kind of lacked some physical tools, he was at least really smart defensively. And so right now he's averaging 12.8 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 5.3 assists, 1.3 steals, and shooting almost 50% from the field, 44.2% from three with 2.3 3-pointers per game, and still not getting to the line over one time per game, but he's at 84.2% and has always been, I think, at least a decent free throw shooter when he does get the chance there. Has a positive net rating and shooting a much better than LaMelo, 62.6%. I just feel like they play slightly different roles. And, I think Halliburton still doesn't have the burden of like the higher usage role that a LaMelo Ball has. So he's just been really fantastic in his role. And I think the rookie of the year certainly seems to be between those two players at this point. I doubt anybody is really going to steal first place votes beyond those two. One player who I think might end up in third place, and if you hear him in an interview, I think you just love him, and it's Anthony Edwards. And beyond, like, he hasn't been efficient. There certainly are issues, but like obviously the dunk on Yuta Watanabe, even with him not having the best stat line in that game, but
it does not matter.
Yeah, exactly. He's just so explosive, and I think he's getting better and kind of figuring things out.
He's going to keep getting more point time and getting more experience as the year goes on. So again, like, he's someone that could come, but right now again it does look like this 2-horse race with LaMelo and Halliburton, but
so Ant has not been efficient at all. And whereas you looked at some of LaMelo's Australia statistics and shooting percentages, and you kind of wondered how that would translate to the NBA. Ant's percentages have definitely been really similar to his. Like, LaMelo's gotten a little better there, and Ant has been similar, if not worse. But I think it's going to trend in the right direction eventually. He's at least upped his 3-point shooting percentage to 31.3%, which was much lower. He's near 80% from the foul line. He's at 38% also, or 37.5%, but close to 38% from the field. Still not good, but I think it's getting better. And I think we're just seeing the explosiveness. We're seeing the ability to get to the basket. And I just think that's going to continue in the right direction. I think he's figuring things out. And, luckily they have Karl Anthony Towns back, so that should help as well, playing with a player of that prestige and ability.
And also playing back into the lottery again there. So, he's gonna get a chance, especially, since playoffs look pretty out of touch for them based on that current trajectory. But yeah, I also agree that he's a great interview. He's also someone who's very sure of himself, as you've seen in some interviews. When asked if he could even do sports he's never even attempted before, he still says yes, and he will be better than you. So yeah, you gotta he's an entertaining guy, and definitely he's gonna keep building a good little fan base with having some posterizing dunks. But moving on from the rookie of the year, what about defensive player of the year?
What's up?
What about defensive player of the year? Who do you think is in that elite? Because for me, I think Rudy Gobert again kind of comes to the front of the line.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, it has to be. And with the way Utah's played, and obviously so much of they played well on both ends of the floor this year, but so much of their identity is that defense, and the centerpiece of that, and the guy guarding the paint is Rudy Gobert. Right now, they're currently second in the league in defensive rating. I believe Rudy is still leading the league in defensive rating. Yes, he is. His defensive rating is 100. He has very positive offensive rating as well. But yeah, he is just still a 7.4 block percentage also. And yeah, like he is that ultimate like paint deterrent. You really have to worry about him if he's going in drop coverage, and like they just try and keep him near the basket, and it seems to work exceptionally well this year.
No, definitely. And yeah, like the other guys that were kind of, on in the hunt, well, 80s obviously, Anthony Davis being hurt, probably hurt, but I'd say like Miles Turner leading the league in blocks right now, and then Clint Capella leading the league in rebounds. But unfortunately, Atlanta is not going to be a contention team. But yeah, to me, I think it's definitely Rudy's to lose at this.
Yeah. The two players that I actually have after Rudy would be Anthony Davis. The Lakers are number one in defensive rating, and I feel like Anthony Davis is obviously their best defender. And
but just depends on the extent of injury as well.
Yeah. I still have because I figure he's going to come back, and like the crazy part is, Jason, like we're still not even at the halfway point of the supposed season. So there's still a lot of season left to play. So that's why these were kind of predictions as well. And then the other player I have, and I think you could have a couple players here from Philadelphia with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, but I went with Joel Embiid, who I just think is a fantastic all-around defender as well. And certainly will be in the thick of things, I think, for that award and for all defensive team consideration.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's going to be the French rejection, as they call him. But yeah, Basketball Reference, if you like, they always have like these nicknames for players you like never heard before.
Yeah. Well, the Stifle Tower is obvious.
Tower, the Gobert,
Gobzilla is one I haven't heard. So yeah,
I just call him Rudy by his name, but he's having a great year, and Utah's having a great year, and again, like, not gonna be the last time you're gonna hear them mentioned, as we go through these awards, because we're moving on to Sixth Man of the Year. And who are you feeling as the front runner right now? Because I have a personal favorite in the race.
Okay, but it's quite obviously Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah,
and yeah, he's been on I think what people refer to as a season-long heater, and yeah, just shooting completely out of his mind. And yeah, when you like add the increased efficiency to Jordan Clarkson and like just that absolute offensive kick off of the bench with the best team in the league, I think that certainly puts him in the front of the race. And I know that Eric Gordon is considered like a Sixth Man of the Year candidate, but he's started half of their games.
Yeah, he's kind of like
I'm throwing that one out.
Yeah, he's trying
as far as like Sixth Man, because I feel like Sixth Man should start very few of their games. Yeah. So yeah, I'm throwing Gordon out as like a guy who is if you're talking about Sixth Man of the Year candidates, I think Jordan Clarkson is the leading scorer at least.
No, for sure. Like the next guy, the kind of personal fave on my end is Chris Boucher. I think he's great.
And that's who I have in second place.
Yeah, having a great year, off the bench for the Raptors. It's kind of crazy. You looking at his stat line, 23 minutes, 13 points, 2 blocks.
Yeah.
So really just someone that is coming off the bench and really doing it this year. And he's only started one game, his first ever career start earlier. I think it was like a week ago. But yeah, I think he'd be like that second sort of person that I'm looking at. But I think Jordan Clarkson like this year has just really been pretty on fire.
The other thing with Chris Boucher is averaging 1.6 made 3-pointers per game on 45% 3-point shooting. So really bringing that stretch element as well, that was always the intriguing factor with him. Along with that top-notch athleticism. Yes, he's still, very skinny. And that's always going to be something with him.
He might always will be, but you know what? he gets on the court and good things happen.
That is absolutely true.
And I
And
think
then
an article about him, that the guy from Sportsnet did. It's like a super long article, but
Michael Grain.
yeah, it talks a lot about how, basically at every level, people are like, oh, he's not going to be able to do anything. And then they put him in the game.
He does things.
Yeah, it doesn't have to mathematically, add up. It's like,
I'm not surprised Chris Boucher is doing things.
go for, like he definitely, makes it happen.
Mhm.
And then Shake Milton would be the only, like the other player that kind of has a little bit of buzz as well. Philly's playing well. He's, doing a pretty good job off the bench there.
I actually had a different player in third place, and I think Shake is a good selection, and Philly still is the team with the best record in the Eastern Conference. I went with Montrez, and I just feel like he's going to get kind of even more of an opportunity over the next little while. Still has the really positive net rating, and yes, there are certainly, every time I watch Laker games, there are certainly defensive issues with Montrez, and he may have the insanely long wingspan, but he still is, like, I think 6'8" at best, and he so yeah, usually like there's a bit of a height and kind of a lateral quickness issue there maybe on the defensive end, but yeah, he's still been that huge offensive force and force in the paint for the Lakers. So yeah, I think as the Lakers likely still remain like in the thick of things, I'm guessing he'll at least get some consideration for second or third place. But Jordan Clarkson, I think, is the clear favorite for the award.
Yeah, he's, almost 20 game. He's had some pretty nice performances as of late. And then moving on, one of my favorite awards is that most improved player. There's definitely some, pretty good candidates this year when you think about it. But obviously, it's an award that can come under some interpretation. But yeah, like who's your kind of front running guy right now for most improved?
Yeah, I think you could even have like players like some of the all stars like I think Jaylen Brown's improved a great deal. I think Zach Levine, like Julius Randle, all those guys have. The player that I have just based on it's usually like the huge transformation, and I know they're not playing very well as a team, but I think he's playing significantly better last year as a player. So I'm going with Jeremy Grant, and yeah, Jeremy Grant signs in Detroit. You knew he was going to have a bigger role. You didn't know he was going to be averaging almost 24 points per game.
Yeah,
obviously it's very different, and it's a different NBA. They're not winning many games, but I don't think you can put a lot of the blame on Jeremy Grant. And I think that when you have that huge point differential from the year 1920 to 2021, that's pretty big.
Yeah, and then behind him I have Christian Wood.
I do as well.
I think also again taking a new team, new role, but really again transforming himself to that 20 plus point a game guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we mentioned,
he's getting more minutes per game, but yeah, absolutely is increased everything as far as a per minute basis.
And then my other people that are there are, as we mentioned, those all-star guys, so like Jaylen Brown, Julius Randle, guys that have kind of taken a little turn. And then just because again I love him as a player, I am thinking Chris Boucher as well, as again transforming himself into a specific role.
My third place was Chris Boucher. Yeah. Just went with him.
Because again,
like he's truly expanded his role this year.
I mean, he's doubled his minutes, scoring, everything. And again,
yeah,
that speaks volumes of what he is as a player. But yeah, we'll see. I definitely think Jeremy Grant and Christian Wood kind of seem like the favorites at this moment, just because they have again taken this kind of leap up.
Yeah, I think the impressive thing with Boucher is he's averaging fewer rebounds per game this year, but everything else seems to be up. And then shooting 65.2% true shooting percentage also. Yeah, just a more efficient player as well this year. Not to mention that when you're just looking at his raw statistics, like he's doubled his scoring. And yeah, it's been, I think a really impressive year. And like he's gone from being kind of like the lower end rotation player to one of the higher end ones.
Yeah, he's that first dude off the bench right now, and deservingly so. So yeah, most improved player, definitely a cool award to keep looking out for as the year progresses. But that's it for the individual awards. Now we're going to kind of move into our teams. So we got our, as we talked way earlier about the rigidity of the league, but we got our all NBA teams. Mikey, who are you kind of, aside from Jokic, your MVP? You have LeBron. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think the rigidity of the center position is like where the All-Star game kind of went to like the front court. The All-NBA team still has that rigid frame where unfortunately it needs to be between Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid rather than having both of them on the team.
Could end up MVP, the others All-NBA second team, even though they could be like the second.
Yeah, I know, man. Well, like even sometimes in the past, you've had a player that's won Defensive Player of the Year being on the All Defensive second team. Like it's crazy, but yeah, it would be nice if they were a little more loose with the definition. Like I would say maybe even like a little positionless with who they had on the All NBA teams, but no, they usually go 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. So I went by that format as well. And my All NBA first team is with the 2 guards. I went with Damian Lillard, who was not named an all-star starter. I felt should have been an all-star starter over Luka Doncic this year. I think it's fairly close, but I'm still going Dame and Stephen Curry as my 2 backcourt players. And then I went with LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard and Nikola Jokic. Do you have a first team, or do you want me to just keep going?
You can keep going. My first team is pretty much the same.
Okay, you can just name yours after. I'll just keep going. All NBA second team, I have Luka Doncic, James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Kevin Durant. And my center is Joel Embiid, of course. And then my All NBA third team, I went with Devin Booker. I'm throwing all-star selections out the window there. Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, assuming Anthony Davis comes back and plays his way onto this team, and Rudy Gobert as the center because Utah has been fantastic. So I think it's a slight change over my initial team that I had announced in preseason. But yeah, give me your teams.
Pretty much, pretty similar. I want to say like the one thing I had Donovan Mitchell on my second team, so I'd like Luka as my guards on my
over
second.
Who?
Over because I think you had Steph.
I had Steph on my first team, and on my second team I had Luka Doncic and James Harden.
Oh, then I had him over Harden because I did. Yeah, Harden on my third team.
Leading the league in assists, man, and the Nets may be the best team in the East.
I know it's up, and the one guy that I couldn't find a spot on a team for is Bradley Beal, as well as having a pretty.
Yeah, I was thinking about Bradley Beal, but I went with the players playing on teams with winning record.
Yeah, no, definitely Bradley Beal, Jaylen Brown. Like
Bradley Beal gets traded, I think his chances might be better.
And who knows if that's gonna happen? Because that's a tough
possibility.
But yeah, no, definitely. I think Dame on the All NBA first team is something that needs to happen. So
yeah, I think he's in position at the very least.
I would do it.
I was a little surprised he wasn't last year, but yeah, it was certainly close.
But it's funny when I look back at my preseason, because like Luka was definitely on my first team, and he was like, I think second in my MVP.
Yeah.
But overall, like the guys that didn't, for me, that that aren't there, that were in my preseason were pretty much Jimmy Butler, because he's been out, Jason Tatum, Pascal Siakam.
Oh, that were on your initial
They were on the preseason, yeah.
preseason. Yeah.
But either way, I mean, definitely some good competition on these teams, and definitely a lot of moving, parts that can play themselves out between Durant, Giannis, Kawhi, like all these guys, can really always make their cases.
I was certainly thinking about Jason Tatum as a possibility as well. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the teams that I have, but yeah, I think there will absolutely be competition. Now,
obviously predictions, and we're never to this point, we're as close to perfect as you can humanly be, but we might be 99.9% accurate. So
yeah,
it could be some
the
variability.
great ones are at least 95.
Yeah. So we were above that.
According to a Star Wars character who shall remain nameless. The all-rookie first team. Did you make yours, or do you want me to just go with my couple?
You can go with yours. I just had to, I kind of listed off some names
Okay.
that all matches.
My all-rookie first team: LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, Patrick Williams of the Chicago Bulls, and Emmanuel Quickley, certainly a surprise to me, of the New York Knicks. I think he has a very good chance of making the first team.
He's played some good games, yeah.
And I think he's at least like seeming like an all-rookie lock if he keeps it up. Yeah, certainly surprising considering that people felt like partially Obi Toppin has been behind an all-star player this year in Julius Randle, but yeah, it's a little surprising. And then my all-rookie second team, I have the Grizzlies' Desmond Bane. I have Cole Anthony of the Orlando Magic. I'm assuming he comes back from injury and makes the team. I'm going to go with a couple big guys in James Wiseman, who I think will come back from injury and likely make the team as well, and Xavier Tillman Sr., also of the Memphis Grizzlies, who's been getting some really good playing time and playing very well, not surprisingly so to people that knew his track record at Michigan State. And my last spot, I have to do it. Peyton Pritchard.
That's all I was waiting for, really. Yeah, I think he's been playing well.
I knew you were. That's why I waited.
I mean, Tyrese Maxey's playing well too, but like
he is. But as of late, it seems like he's kind of in the doghouse now. So yeah, he's really kind of moved down their depth chart a little bit in the last few games. I don't know if there's something else up there, but yeah, he's kind of, at least his playing time has been a bit stunted, and yeah, he didn't play these past couple of games against the Raptors.
Well, I'm all as all in on the Peyton Pritchard bandwagon there. So super happy for him. Thus far, he's shooting pretty decently and getting some time, but we'll see.
I know people were talking about Peyton going 50, 40, 90.
Oh yeah,
that was always a pipe dream, I felt. But yeah, he's still wow. The fact that he's even as close as he is pretty amazing.
No, totally, and he started a game. I mean,
hopefully Boston can win some games. That's the next step too, because they've since Kendrick's come back, it hasn't. Well, let's also be real. They miss Marcus Smart. And Marcus Smart has always been a player that people knew was incredibly important, even when he was at his most offensively inefficient, is just so important in terms of leadership, defense, like what he brings to the table, and was having a really good year as well. So yeah, without Marcus Smart, people knew Marcus Smart was a very valuable piece of the team, and I think they're seeing that right now also.
But again, like, log jammed pretty tight. I mean, it's like you got the Sixers and Nets at the top, and like everyone else is pretty decently close there in the East. So Celtics definitely not out of it, but obviously need to turn a little bit of a corner there, because again, they don't want to be the sixth the 6th seed. That's not, where they kind of left off last year and what they're, trying to do. So yeah.
3-7 over the last 10. So yeah, they do need to at least pick it up a little bit. And yeah, like the fact that they're 31 games in and have a losing record is a little surprising. I'm not sure if you saw the game today, but Luka Doncic with an incredible couple of 3-pointers.
Yeah, he definitely can't. I saw those because obviously he always likes to show up at that time.
Mhm.
Except in that one game against the Blazers a couple weeks ago where he missed that open 3 at the end.
Yeah, well, he was too open.
Yeah, but yeah, like he definitely like hits those super ridiculous.
Yeah, the step backs it's a shot.
Yeah, oh for sure.
It's a shot, and yeah, he's upped his 3-point percentage over the last little while too. And I'm sure when you shoot 6 of 8 from 3, that's going to up it probably a couple points as well. So yeah, at least I'm guessing probably a point in the positive.
Yeah, and again, like Western Conference too, like the Mavs are the 9 right now, but everything is they're a game out. Everything is super close right now for a lot of these kind of after that, basically the top 4 in the West. That's where it really opens up for the rest of the teams in those last few spots. So we'll definitely see some pretty heated competition there. But yeah, this was our we did our preseason. This is kind of a midest season predictions of how we feel the awards are going to go. But definitely if there's awards that you agree on, disagree on, definitely let us know in the comments. Like who are some guys you think are worthy of the awards that we did not give the props to?
Yeah.
Or some we gave props to that you don't like. Let us know why you don't like them.
Why I left Sadiq Bey off the all-rookie second team. Shoot us a comment, and who would be your 2 guards on the All-NBA third team? That was a really tough one for me.
Yeah, there's so many guys out there, but definitely let us know in the comments. And then if you're on iTunes and you're listening to this podcast, definitely go ahead and please leave us a review. We super appreciate that. It's very helpful. We love doing what we do, and we hope that you love it as well. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can. I'm at Jay Visenberg on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. If you want to follow him, Michael Visenberg on Twitter, that is at NBA Draft Mikey V. If you like the both of us as a combination, you can follow us at Viseland.
Yes, we'll have an at Viseland poll this week as well.
Yeah, we pop up the poll, so we want to know your, get the consensus of the community on very heated topics and issues of this time.
Best NBA Jam team.
Best NBA Jam team from the original game. Yes. I did a blog piece about that.
We're gonna do your top 4.
Okay, because I was like, I can't do
do your top 4.
I can't do a multiple choice poll for 27 teams.
Yeah,
but I'll do the top 4.
Top 4.
But if you're interested in that as well, I wrote a blog piece about it. It's just fun, like looking back at the old arcade and a little bit of the console. There's some differences between the console and the arcade of like Shaq not being in the console, but he was in the arcade. But yeah, NBA Jam, just like a fun game and just like fun little debates to kind of think about, like even now, like 2-on-2 with the whole NBA, like what would those teams look like? Who are those guys? So, hey, that will be the
LeBron James and Anthony Davis would win.
Well, I think when they did the most recent like NBA Jam that I had in my possession was I had like on Xbox, and it was LeBron and it was Miami, and so it was like LeBron and Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh. You'd kind of like rotate. There's always LeBron but like those were like the squads, yeah.
I think Anthony Davis is the best player he's ever played with.
No, for sure. But yeah, I don't know if there's like I'll have to if you guys have a mod for like an NBA Jam with like modern day roster, let me know. I would love to check it out.
Nets would be pretty damn good too.
Yeah, just a fun game, because again, it takes all the the rules are just like an arcade style throwdown of just dazzling dunks and basketball bloopers, which is something that I've always been a fan of. But thank you guys so much again for coming and checking us out every week, and we hope to catch y'all next week. Yeah,
thank you. And again, reiterating what Jason said, any likes, subscribers, anything that you do for this podcast that shows us some love, it would be great to get to more ears and eyes. And we love talking about basketball, and we're hoping to grow this podcast. So just have appreciated everybody that watched our episodes over the last few weeks and the last number of weeks of Viseland. If you were there from the beginning, thank you very much. If you are new here, thank you. And if you show us that support, we would greatly appreciate it.
Yep. Catch y'all next week.